Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is, well, to give you a strategic playbook. We're diving into private label wellness supplements.
Yeah, it's a really complex area.
Exactly. We're looking at an essential buyer's guide, aiming to provide a shortcut, really, for selecting the right manufacturing partner, someone who protects your brand and, crucially, speeds up your market entry.
And it's so timely. The whole private label game has changed, hasn't it? It's not just the budget option anymore.
No, not at all.
It's become this key strategic engine for growth. Established brands use it to pivot fast. New brands scale up almost instantly.
But that speed comes with risks.
Huge risks, especially if quality assurance isn't absolutely locked down. The main challenge for buyers now, balancing that speed with maintaining rock-solid consumer trust.
Okay, so looking forward, say, to 2025, what are the big trends shaping these partnership decisions? I'm seeing maybe 4 major forces at play.
Yeah, and they all demand more technical sophistication from the manufacturer. First, personalized nutrition. Formulas aren't one-size-fits-all now.
Right.
So partners need to handle smaller, trickier custom batches. Second, that clean label commitment. It's basically non-negotiable.
Consumers just expect it.
They demand it. Retailers, too. Minimal synthetics, certified organic, traceable ingredients. It's raising the bar.
And those first 2 definitely hit the operational side. And retailers are pushing sustainability mandates too, right?
Exactly. That's number 3. Sustainability in packaging, bioplastics, recyclable blisters. The manufacturer has to be flexible there.
Okay.
But the fourth one, I think, is the most strategic shift. E-commerce optimization.
Tell me more about that.
It means things like serializing every single product, unit-level traceability, and using tech like QR codes so consumers can see the ingredient sourcing story right on their phone.
Ah, that traceability piece. Linking the supply chain right to the smartphone. That feels like the real breakthrough for managing risk.
It is.
So if you bake in that robust QA, that transparent sourcing from the start, how does that actually help the business? What are the tangible benefits?
It connects trust directly to efficiency. When traceability is instant, like down to the single unit, 2 things happen. 1, you launch faster. Why? Because regulatory confidence is way higher.
Makes sense.
And 2, if a recall does happen, your scope is surgical, tiny, not massive. You pull fewer products, protect your brand equity, and minimize the financial hit instantly. It's really an investment in defense.
Okay, let's unpack that life cycle. A brand has an idea, maybe a great one. What does that actual end-to-end partnership look like, from concept to shelf in, say, wellness supplements?
Well, it's definitely an iterative slow, but you have to break it down into clear stages. It kicks off with discovery and scoping.
Defining the need, the market.
Exactly. Then formulation, or maybe selecting an existing SKU. After that, the heavy lifting starts. Regulatory review, really rigorous testing. Then packaging and label design. And finally, launch.
And you said iterative.
Oh, yeah. It's not strictly linear.
Yeah.
You often loop back, especially when you're validating specific health claims against your test results. You might need to tweak things.
Let's talk timelines. Speed is critical, obviously, but rushing quality can be fatal. You mentioned a window, maybe 12 to 20 weeks. That feels significant. Where's the main bottleneck?
Discovery is usually quick. 1 to 3 wins, maybe. The real-time sync, custom formulation. Depending on how new the blend is, stability testing, getting regulatory aligned, that can easily chew up 6 to 12 weeks. Once that's locked, packaging and labeling reviews, which also involve regulatory checks, take another 2 to 6 weeks.
So custom is where the patience is needed.
Definitely. Using existing catalog SKUs where the stability data is already there, that's the obvious accelerator, cuts down that time significantly.
That formulation window, 6 to 12 weeks. That's a big commitment. How does a smaller brand manage the financial side? We always hear about MOQs, minimum order quantities. Seems like a barrier.
MOQs are, well, they're strategic gatekeepers, absolutely. And they vary hugely. A niche product might start at a few thousand units.
Okay.
But a mass market item, tens of thousands, easily. Smart brands manage this risk, though. 2 main ways. First, start with catalog Cs. They often have lower MOQs because manufacturers are already running them. Second, use modern payment structures. Milestone-based payments.
Milestone payments. How does that work? How does it protect the brand?
Instead of a massive upfront payment, you tie payments to hitting specific deliverables, passing stability testing, for instance, or clearing the final QA inspection.
So the manufacturer has skin in the game.
Precisely. They're incentivized throughout. And critically, the contract must spell out the recall and corrective action procedures. That's your insurance policy for brand equity.
That fits with that case study we looked at. A beauty brand moving into supplements. They turned an herbal product into a premium organic line using private label, and they got it done 30% faster.
Right.
That speed wasn't just luck. It came from using the partner's audited procedures, their existing stability data. They leveraged the partner's system.
And that success story really raises the core question for any buyer. How do you effectively screen for that level of operational excellence? You need a solid comparison framework. It goes way beyond just price.
Absolutely. So what are the non-negotiables? When you're screening partners, what has to be there?
We always fall back on the 7-point framework. It's a holistic view.
Yep.
1, GMP and QA rigor. 2, third-party certifications. 3, ingredient sourcing transparency.
Okay.
4, flexibility in product development. 5, lead times and MOQs, still important. 6, packaging and labeling capabilities. And 7, solid documentation and full traceability. Those are the pillars.
Let's drill down on number 1, QA rigor. Anyone can say GMP compliant on a website. What specific proof, what auditable evidence should a buyer demand?
You need to get past the static snapshot of an audit. Yes, look for formal GMP compliance status, but the real key is how they handle failure.
Okay.
Ask for their documented QA procedures, their validated batch records, but most critically, ask to see their deviation tracking system.
Deviations, when things go wrong.
Exactly. Deviations must be tracked, investigated thoroughly, and closed out using measurable corrective and preventive actions. To APA.
So just having a CLADP in process isn't enough. It's about how effective that system is.
Precisely. If they consistently leave deviations open or close them without fixing the root cause, that's a huge red flag. It means your brand is ultimately carrying that risk. It needs to be a culture of improvement, not just ticking boxes.
Got it. And number 2, third-party assurance. Why insist on things like NSF GMP or USP or ISO 22000? Why isn't the manufacturer's own internal QC good enough?
Because independent certification transfers trust. It's objective validation. When you seek, say, USP certification, you're asking for proof verified by an outside expert that the product has what the label says at the right strength without contaminants.
Removes the internal bias.
Completely. And this extends to their labs, too. They need strong alliances with certified third-party labs for both in-process and finished product testing. Again, objectivity.
And the paperwork that proves all this testing happened.
That's the documentation piece. A strong partner provides a comprehensive certificate of analysis, the COA, with every single production lot, no exceptions.
And that COA needs...
It needs complete lot tracking.
Yeah.
It has to connect that finished product all the way back to the raw material supplier, receipt date, test results for every ingredient. It's non-negotiable for recalls, audits, defending any claims. There's an industry quote that sums it up.
What's that?
A truly capable manufacturer is a partner that can translate your brief into tested, compliant, and market-ready products with minimal friction. That requires a culture of QA, not just a checklist. It really is about the culture.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for brands, I think. That tension. Balancing uniqueness, differentiation with speed and efficiency. How do you weigh launching something totally custom versus using a ready-made catalog product?
The classic trade-off really is. Catalog SKUs, they offer speed, predictable costs, and crucially, existing stability data. That slashes the launch risk. They're your efficiency play.
Quick to market.
Very quick. Custom formulation, though. That's your differentiation play. It lets you create unique IP, proprietary blends, get really precise on potency or sourcing.
Good. It takes longer and costs more.
Exactly. You've got those longer development cycles, 6 to 12 weeks we talked about, and higher initial costs.
So if a brand wants that uniqueness but needs to manage risk, especially for a new launch, what's the smartest strategy? Is there an optimal path?
Yeah, the blended approach often works best. Start by testing the waters of the proven catalog SKU. See what gets traction.
Dip your toe in.
Right. Once you identify a winner, then you pivot quickly. You move into custom formulation for the next generation of that product. Turn that proven concept into your own proprietary IP. It balances speed, risk, and differentiation really nicely.
Let's talk sourcing for a minute, especially with that clean label trend. If I, as a brand, absolutely need certified organic vitamin C, let's say, how does the manufacturer protect me from supply chain hiccups and guarantee the integrity of that pricey ingredient?
You have to demand transparency about their supply chain resilience. Ask about it directly.
What does that look like?
Do they have diversified supplier networks? Do they use hedging strategies for critical materials? If your brand hinges on one specific botanical from one specific region, well, you're vulnerable. For that clean label integrity, organic, sustainable claims, you must mandate documentation, proof of certification status, full batch level traceability for every single ingredient. That data has to live in the COA for that lot.
Yeah.
No wiggle room. And if we connect this sourcing integrity to the bigger picture, the product label itself isn't just marketing real estate. It's fundamentally a regulatory vehicle,
Right.
especially when you think about global expansion. Managing labeling compliance correctly is absolutely critical for consumer trust and, frankly, for staying legal.
That global regulatory map feels like a total minefield. Can you give us a quick snapshot? What are the core differences between, say, the US and the EU?
The core philosophical difference is huge for manufacturers.
Yeah.
The U.S. market, mostly under DSHEA and FDA rules, operates largely on a post-market system. Brands need to substantiate their claims, sure, but often the burden is on the FDA to prove something is unsafe or mislabeled after it hits the shelf.
Okay, sort of launch first, ask questions later.
In a simplified sense, yes. Whereas Europe, the EU and the UK are fundamentally different. They lean heavily on pre-market authorization.
Much stricter up front.
Much stricter. Often requires pre-notifications or even registrations for novel ingredients and the scientific backing needed for health claims before you can launch. Way more rigorous. Then you have places like Canada or Australia with its TGA. They have very specific import rules and serious post-market obligations they watch closely.
Wow. So that complexity just explodes when you think about packaging mandates across all those places. It's not just one label fits all.
Oh, absolutely not. A good partner has to function as your regulatory manager, essentially. They need to handle those global requirements. Things like bilingual labeling for Canada, clear allergen statements everywhere, ensuring every claim on that pack is accurate and substantiated for each market you enter.
A huge task.
It is. And on top of that, you now have sustainability demands impacting packaging choices, recyclable materials, bioplastics, plus integrating things like serialization for anti-counterfeiting. That little QR code might carry a lot of weight.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's look at the financial side, the contracts. Protecting your margin, minimizing risk. How do you build supply chain resilience to ensure you actually have product to sell?
Resilience really starts with solid, data-driven forecasting. You have to work closely with your partner on that. Then, demand safety stock buffers.
Actual inventory held back.
Yes, physical inventory held by the manufacturer as a cushion. And critically, have secondary suppliers identified for essential components, key ingredients, specific bottles or caps. If your main bottle supplier has a fire, you need a plan B ready to go.
Makes sense. Contingency planning.
Exactly. And we're also seeing a big push towards nearshoring, bringing manufacturing closer to home to cut down transit risks and lead times, especially for bulky things like packaging.
When you're looking at cost sheets from potential partners, where do those hidden costs usually lurk? The ones that bite into your margin later?
Buyers naturally focus on the base price per unit, maybe potency adjustments, but they often get blindsided by the variables.
Such as?
Things like rework if there's a manufacturing error, unexpectedly high sampling fees, label amendments, maybe a regulation changes mid-production, and expedited shipping charges if forecasts were off. You need total transparency on how those variables are calculated up front.
Get it all defined early. And finally, the contract itself, the foundation of the whole partnership. Beyond price and quantity, what are the absolute must-haves to protect the brand's IP and its overall equity?
3 things are totally mandatory in my book. First, clear service level agreements, SLAs. Define performance expectations explicitly. On-time delivery rates, QA acceptance levels. Put numbers on it.
Measurable targets.
Yes. Second, define intellectual property ownership clearly. The brand must own its custom formulations, period. But then there's the manufacturing data, the batch records. Who owns that? It needs to be clearly defined, maybe shared IP, maybe auditable by the brand. Don't leave it ambiguous.
That's a really crucial distinction, owning the recipe versus owning the how to make it data.
It really is. And the third essential, recall readiness. The contract has to mandate a tested specific recall plan.
Not just we'll figure it out if it happens.
No way. It needs to find rapid notification channels, proof of mock recall drills, and those line-specific traceability protocols we talked about. If the contract is vague on recall response, your brand equity is basically hanging out there unprotected. So wrapping this up, what we've really detailed here is that a well-run private label program isn't just about speed. It's a way to compress that time to market while also locking down compliance, quality, and traceability. The right partner isn't just a vendor.
No.
They become a true extension of your brand's promises around quality and clean labels.
So, what does this all mean for you, the strategic buyer listening in?
Well, the foundation of a winning private label program isn't really about haggling over the lowest MOQ or getting the fastest quote. It's fundamentally built on a transparent data ecosystem,
That's the core.
supported by solid, independent testing and crystal clear regulatory alignment across every market you want to reach. That foundation is what lets you grow sustainably without taking on unmanageable risks.
Exactly. And, that leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you today. Given this clear trend towards e-commerce demanding more serialization, QR codes giving ingredient history, and the absolute need to comply with wildly different global rules, like US versus EU versus Canada.
Yeah. How can brands best leverage those digital assets, like that QR code, to bridge the regulatory gaps between markets? Think about it. Could a single scan provide the specific claim substantiation needed in the US while also delivering the ingredient notifications required in the EU? All seamlessly, while still delivering the speed and transparency consumers now demand. That level of integration, that's the future of compliance in this space.